What have you been doing to work on your craft? I know you kind of get up in the morning and.
Yeah, I mean, right after the pandemic, man, I really honed in on what we did last year. Our successes, our failures, whys, all that stuff. And that took me about a month. And within that, we were trying to recruit because, this transfer market, you guys are probably aware, and then grad transfers. So it was kind of cyclical. I would go basketball, and then I would go like 3 weeks hard recruiting, trying to secure our roster. And now I'm always, you heard, I don't know how many guys heard the Chris Oliver podcast, but you actually did an unbelievable synopsis of the thing and shared that with Chris. That was awesome. But I'm always looking for ways to be better offensively, man. And I do a lot of flow movement, pop stuff, playoff penetration. And I'm kind of changing some things and rethinking some things, just like all of you guys. I mean, it's been great. I've coached basketball 25 years now. So the pandemic for me is, I miss being on the court with our guys, but it was also a good reset for me. It really was. I think it's come the perfect time in my career where it started to get monotonous. I've been in the same job now for 7 years. I worked for the same boss for going on 14 years. So, it's kind of blending into one another, and to have 2.5, 3 months to reboot and reset. I think for me, I don't want it to be over a pandemic and people lose lives, but it's been great for me. I've really got to hit home with my kids, my own kids. I don't know if you guys saw, I forget who did the interview, but he said, Frank Martin. Frank Martin said, man, I always thought I was a great father, and I had a great understanding about my kids and a great relationship with my wife. And they really were first on my list. And then my basketball team blended right in with that. He goes, until you're around them 3 months and you're like, man, I could have done so much more. I could know so much more about my kids. I could spend so much more quality time with my wife, just not time. I thought that was pretty remarkable. And I've kind of, for the last month, kind of tried to live that credo a little bit. And Coach Martin is a good dude. I've known him a long, long time. And he's like, you think you're doing an awesome job, and we all are, but the constraints of basketball kind of take so much away from you. You don't even see it. And then when you remove one of them, you get right back in and you're like, okay, I can even be a better husband. I can be a better father. I can really understand my kids. There were some things, little things like, oh man, I thought he liked chocolate ice cream. He hates it. Just dumb little things like that. Like,
what's that? What? Oh,
somebody hit us with the.
Yeah, well, Coach, we appreciate you being on today. I'm going to give you
no problem.
Intro and then we'll just go right into it.
Yeah.
And, thanks to the coaches that are tuning in this morning also. So Coach Bill Wuczynski, assistant coach at Boston College. As you mentioned, you've spent several seasons with head coach Jim Christian. Prior to Boston College, we're with him at Ohio University and Texas Christian University. Before your time at TCU, you spent time as an assistant coach at FIU and Loyola Chicago. Graduate of UNLV. After graduation, your coaching career really took off as you joined the Running Rebels staff for a few seasons. We first learned of Coach Wuczynski on the basketball podcast with Chris Oliver, episode 4. So you're one of the very.
I was a newbie.
You're one of the first guys on there. I know Chris has had over 100 of those now. So hearing your talk on there really resonated with us. The 4 phases of offensive attack is something that Jeremy, Nate, and I have installed into our own programs. And
great.
I know you and I got to talk last year over the phone. Really appreciate you connecting with us today and looking forward to learning more about these topics.
So just one thing about that podcast, guys, is I thought of this a couple different ways. So that was that 3 years ago, basically, or for sure 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, a couple years.
Yeah, 2 years ago. And Chris and I remained very close, but I noticed he hasn't given me the re-invite to the podcast. So I thought 2 things. I said, either I set this thing off and did a great job on episode 4 and he's getting bigger and better guests, or he doesn't need me anymore. So I don't know what it is. No, but Chris and I, we text at least once every couple of weeks, and he does some great things, and you guys are all part of that community. And I appreciate you guys letting me come on and talk about, one of my passions. It's, my dad told me a long time ago, he was an educator and my mom was an educator. And, I wasn't much for academics. I'll be honest with you guys. I was a sports fanatic and really good baseball player. I played varsity baseball as an 8th grader. And for some stupid reason, I chose basketball. And it doesn't make sense. I think like I told you guys, I'm 47, I'm going to be 48 And I could still be in the league right now making multi-millions if I would have just stayed with baseball the way that some of these guys are. But I was very fortunate. My dad, taught me really, really early in my life, don't worry about academics. He's just an academic guy. He was a principal for 32 years. He said, don't worry about academics. Just find your passion and make it your profession. And then you'll be fine the rest of your life. And that's exactly what I did. He kind of went over a rundown of my coaching career, and it's been a blessing. I mean, I went to Northeastern Illinois out of high school as a third walk-on and hated it and left. I went to junior college and blew my knee out, all 4 ligaments in my knee. I started coaching basketball in 1991 in a mobilizer for 4 months. High school, my high school freshman, I was the high school freshman B basketball coach, and you guys in Indiana probably have A level and B level. So, and that really excited me. But I was kind of lost. I was hanging out with some wrong people, drinking a lot. I'm not going to lie to you guys, and having a good time like any young college guy would. And I went to Las Vegas for spring break. And I hope you guys don't mind me telling like kind of a backdrop, but it's kind of important to me. And was out partying one day, and I was like, man, I can't just. My brother lived in Vegas, and he was a radio sports national broadcaster. And he would go to work really early, so I would just hang out and go to the pool and start drinking some beers. And I said, man, I can't do it today. I got to do something different. And so he lived like 2 blocks from UNLV. And I was like, you know what, man, I'm kind of lost out here educationally. I knew I had to get a degree just like everybody else. I mean, I figured, sooner or later I'd graduate. When I got my stuff together, I would get a PE degree or a kinesiology degree and go be a high school teacher and coach high school ball. I didn't know anything else. And I'm literally walking on the campus of UNLV with spring break, so there was nobody there. And I use this term a lot. And you guys can write it down or just kind of memorize it. And I don't know if you guys, it's kind of a big gambler's phrase. And I kind of wager on the horses a little bit, but that's where it came from. It said, always keep your head up because you could be walking around lucky and not even know it. And the reason why I say that is because I was literally walking on UNLV's campus aimlessly, no idea where I was going. I walk into a building and I basically backed into a gentleman. I had no idea who he was or what he was doing. And he had no idea who I was and why I was even on campus. Cause I was, I think I might've been 19 at the time, maybe 18 or 19. And everybody else, every other college looking kid is gone. And he's like, can I help you? I'm like, no, I'm kind of just walking around. I apologize if I'm in the wrong place. I was just bored. My brother lives 2 blocks away. He's like, what's your name? So we have a little introduction. We're standing in a hallway. He's like, hey, come follow me in my office. And long story short, I'm sitting with a gentleman. I don't know what I'm going to do the rest of my career, my life academically. I'm in a JUCO. And long story short, we have a 2.5-hour conversation. The gentleman I'm speaking to used to be the old athletic director at UNLV when they went to 5 Elite Eights, 7 Sweet 16s, 3 Final Fours, and won a national title. And that's why I use that phrase. You could be walking around lucky and not even know it. That man that day changed my life. And I wasn't even looking for it. It's kind of one of those success stories. And the reason why he did it at the time, Coach Tim Gergerich, I don't know if you guys, your development guys should know him. Coach Gerg was the head coach at UNLV at the time. And he was also Coach Tark's assistant during all the glory years. he went when Coach Tark got fired for recruiting violations, all that stuff you all know about. Coach Gerg went to the NBA with George Karl and was the highest paid assistant coach in the NBA. Back then, he was making over $1 million, and that was 1992. He's basically the godfather of individual skill development. He's the guy who really did it, which is one of my mentors by far. But I literally sitting in a guy named Dr. Brad Rothermell's office, who was the old AD, and he calls Coach Gerg. He goes, "I got the perfect worker for you next year," and he gave me my start, not even knowing me. During that conversation, we had so much in common. He was from Illinois, down south Illinois. I'm from Chicago. We're both Cubs fans. He played for the Cubs. He was a AAA baseball player. And it was just one of those, you guys probably all ran into situations like this where you just kind of click with somebody. And it was ridiculous. I mean, I was kind of lost in that part of my life. I loved hoops. I loved athletics. I didn't know where I was going with it. And you literally back into a guy that's at that point in time just retired as the athletic director the same year. And he was one of the most powerful guys in Las Vegas. So you could be walking around lucky and not even know it, fellas. So keep your eyes open, keep your head up, because the guys closest to you are the ones that could probably help you out the most. So that's kind of a little backdrop. If anybody has any question about my path, we could do that. Otherwise, we can jump right in on the basketball portion. And Heath, let me know how long you guys want to go. I'll sit here till 4 p.m. It doesn't matter to me. So if I get long-winded or if you guys get bored and if you drop off, a lot of these opinions we do at Boston College. I mean, a lot of the offensive stuff we do. And Heath, you did a tremendous job kind of illustrating that in the preview video. But some of this stuff I'm going to give you is my own. And some of you guys will be like, man, this dude is crazy how he thinks about this. I think, completely different. And that's fine. I mean, that's why the game's beautiful. I'm a firm believer in my opinions and how you should teach basketball, what's important, and where you can separate. That doesn't mean you're gonna agree with those. But the one thing I would like to get out of it is maybe you think a little bit differently, like, yeah, maybe he is right, type thing. So you guys tell me how long you want to go. I got some video that I can show you guys through practice. But I will give you a backdrop. If you guys ready to start offensive stuff?
Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
Okay. So I think I mentioned already. In 25 years, I've been in Division I basketball, one way, shape, or form. At the lowest levels to now being the top assistant in the ACC and the best league in the country. I will say this: out of those 25 years, I can count on one hand 5 years where I knew our team, our roster had top 3 talent in that league, where you knew we have a chance to win it all. 3 years at UNLV, we were completely loaded and stacked, and I coached lottery picks, guys that were on the Olympic team, guys that played for other countries that were Olympic team members. So 3 years at UNLV, and the 2 years we were at Ohio University, we were loaded. We won 51 games in 2 years. We went 13-3 on the road in league play, which even Buffalo, when Coach Hurley and Coach Oates, now that's at Alabama, even when they were loaded at Buffalo and really smacking everybody in the MAC, our road records were better than theirs, which it's one of the things I'm most in terms of accomplishments really proud about. But in those 25 years, like I said, only 5 of those years, talent really took over. And so as a young coach, you don't even think about a lot of different things. And so maybe 10 or 12 years ago, I started really getting frustrated with, like, man, I'm at FIU and at the time Loyola to Chicago. It's nowhere close to where it was. How do I shrink the gap? Like, how do I get close to the Butlers, or at that time Wisconsin Green Bay or Wisconsin Milwaukee was really good, or at FIU, Western Kentucky was a killer. South Alabama was loaded. Like, how do I get our guys to that level? Because again, like, guys, I've had some shitty jobs now. I mean, like, awful. And you're just hoping to get guys that are committed to being basketball players so you can kind of mold them. So the two things that I just figured out, and it's not brain surgery, figured out is, like, I got to be better in individual skill development, and I got to figure out a way where we can be better offensively. Those are the two things, and they're the two most fluid things. I mean, if you think about it, those two things can really elevate your program, and that's nothing that you guys haven't heard. And so I really started to get passionate about development, skill development, and offensive basketball. And I figured, okay, what avenues in the offense could I get is the separator? And I don't know, Heath, did you screen share me at all?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, you should be able to. I got you. Yeah. I'm gonna pop this up here. And let me optimize the screen, and let me command in. Oh. Hang on, bear with me, boys. Okay. And so basically of what you guys have talked about, and Heath and you guys, seem to be believers in this. Has everybody got this? Is everyone good here?
Yeah, looks good, Coach.
Okay. The 4 phases of attack that we use at Boston College, and then I've started to develop over the years, and you guys know it. I'm not talking to, guys who haven't seen this, but, go, flow, move, and execute. And back to my original is, where can I find the avenues to shrink the gap, to close the window, to, somehow figure out how can we play with Duke and beat Duke and Carolina and Louisville and Virginia, blah, blah, blah. Well, I've found out that, everybody has a go phase. Everybody teaches a go phase, go meaning, okay, loose ball, transition, steal, turnover. Everybody teaches some go phase, and everybody has some philosophy, some drill work and all that. You're going to get, depending on your defensive, philosophies and how aggressive you are, everybody averages within, you're going to force 10 turnovers to somewhere close to 18, 19 turnovers, depending on what you do. So how can you get the most points out of those? I think we all realize that, right? And so that's kind of locked, depending on how many points that you can get out of that. Obviously, the more you score there, the easier it's going to be on you and your offense. But the go phase, kind of what I just talked about. So, this is us. This is how we do this. We want to score under 7 seconds or less. And again, teaching your guys teaching your guys what go really means, and what you can get off go, and how and when. Like I said, the turnovers are, the must. So the drill work, we all probably do the same exact drills, 3-on-2, 2-on-1, 5-man, weave into all that stuff, +1 scrambles, full court. But we kind of, and if anybody wants this, so you don't have to write feverishly, I'll send it to you. That's the type of guy I am. I don't care. And Heath, you kind of know that. So a couple things that we always can talk about is get your feet out of the mud. Your first 3 steps, you gotta separate. I'm sure you guys say the same exact things. This isn't brain surgery, and this is kind of, like I said, this is kind of a locked version of offense. You're only going to get so much out of this. For us, 1 through 4 compete for lanes, and then we have no point. Everybody's a point guard in transition. So I've always said, if you trust your 3-man well enough to push in transition, you're going to be good. If you trust your 4-man to push in transition, you have a chance to really be great. And I'll give you an example of this. Our power forward, who actually had to shift to the center because our starting center got hurt. He only played in 13 games this year, which was why we weren't as good as we thought we would be. Our starting power forward had 97 assists this year. And our starting point guard had 98. So it kind of gives you an idea, how we play, what we look for in bigger guys. Our starting center, who was hurt, I think he had 41 assists. So when you can really rely on your bigs to make skill plays, I think it's a separator. I think that's where we're getting really good. And that's where, when Stephon Mitchell, our starting foreman, would push the ball, that's where we get this early opposite term. We would always pitch it up, look across court, either shoot the first one or throw it to the corner, which we call two-sided fast break. But I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar with that by now. And then the one thing that we always talk about, early opposite, you'll hear that 25 times a day in one of our practices. If the ball's early up, so same side, the guy earling it up, whoever it is, you have to be the eyes of the guy receiving the ball. And so when we early it up, strong side, there's two things that have to happen. One of them, he's telling you, I'm throwing you the ball up because you got to drive it. You got to get 2 feet in the paint. Or if we early it up, we throw it in the post every time. I shouldn't say never because some guys do. We don't like the early up, same side of the floor, and shoot that 3. Now, anything cross court, early opposite, you can spin around in a circle, throw it up, throw a hook up, punt it up. We don't care. Because early opposite, I think we made 40-something% of those threes. And out of those 50 whatever percent we missed, I think we got 30-something% of them back. Great opportunity to rebound those balls because you know how it is. You guys teach transition defense like we do. Everybody loads to the basketball. And once you advance it opposite, you get your first shift in defense. The first pass, usually they'll get to the first pass maybe. If not, we're firing it. I know they won't get to the corner, the two-sided fast break one, and we fire that one too. So that's the go phase. The last 2 bullet points are what I call the first phase of our flow. And I think it's the most important. It's the unstructured phase of basketball. I think it has the most room for growth in anybody's program. But I will tell you this, you have to be really patient and you have to really believe in it. And if there's ever a conflict or a rift between Coach and I, it's always because Jim Christian is the best movement coach in the country by far. It's not even close. I don't know if you guys have watched this, make, miss, or, win 20 games or win 1 game. What we run on our movement phase is the best in the country. Now, you can ask anybody in our league, and we have to do it because our talent level is low. But I think the unstructured, the ability to score points. Actually, I got this right here. So let's just stay on the go phase. I apologize. Some of you guys have probably saw this. The 2 things that we do, and I hope you don't mind. I didn't use game film. If you're anything like me, you want to see how you do it and not the results of how you do it. So my go phase and my flow phase are all practice footage, and then my move and execute will be some game footage. But again, I just think you learn so much more of how you're doing it when you're watching them implement. And a lot of this is a couple years ago, some last year, and some of it's bad. But so the first thing that we do every day, not every day, but probably 4 or 5 days a week to illustrate so they hear early opposite is just some drill work. So we'll start off our practice with what we call 2-man fast break. And basically all it is a drop drill, push and transition, and you're just looking opposite. Now, guys, like I limited this, but we do about literally 13 different things off this early opposite, which starts to create the flow movement. So this is the backside of our go that usually shifts into our flow. And so the first one is just early out. It's not even the first one. The first one would be early opposite, attack, and dunk. The second one would be a pull up. But the third one is really relevant is early opposite 3. And then early opposite right back top. So basically it's a warm-up drill where guys are starting to understand, give me the ball opposite and let's play off of it. Villanova 2-foot stop, reverse pivot. So you guys could see a little bit now of it's no longer the go phase, right? It's starting to turn into the flow phase of, okay, I want to play on pop. I want to play off penetration. I don't want the ball to stop. I want to create an advantage. I want to keep the advantage. And these are 2 little drills that we'll do. The next one, a little bit more game-like. But again, these are just warm-up drills. and different kind of concepts that we do. So we play off penetration. So pop, you guys know that term, right? It's one of my favorites. Okay, this is what I think is the most important thing that we do in terms of on O drills. So this is another one. You just watch 2-man fast break. We have 3-man early opposite fast break. And again, this is old. So if you guys watch Chris Oliver's deal, it was on there. So we start with it. And again, our 4s, 5s, 1s, and 2s, we don't care where they are. If you watch the second clip of the 2-man early opposite, our 5-man pushed and threw it to the 1-man. Here, just I'll give you a deal. The kid up on the right wing running the sideline. He's our backup 5-man. The kid who rebounded the ball, he's our starting 5-man. And the kid who's going to get this outlet, number 23, was our backup 2-guard, backup 3rd-string combo guard. So we really don't care who's where. We just want guys to understand our system and what we do. And so, a little bit 3-man weave like, I don't like it. We always talk about that's an outlet and a push and an early opposite. And then we'll outlet it. And now we're outletting it to our 5-man, as you guys can tell. But he has to understand what we're looking for. That's the early opposite. Again, our first phase and go. And we fire that ball every single time. So again, I think this is important to illustrate. This is where Chris Oliver and I we got to get bent out of shape a little bit. I think there's a purpose for on-O drills, and it's, kind of a mental training, a rehearsal. And when you're trying to change some the way guys think about basketball, I think you have to do it. Chris would say, why isn't there defense out there? Which we do put D out there for more decision making. But again, we want our guys to start running wide lanes, first 3 steps, and then go again. Here that's Kyron Bowman, who just inbounded the ball, who started 26 games for the Golden State Warriors this year. He's inbounding it to our starting 5-man, who's throwing it to our starting 3-man. And then we'll shoot that. All right, so that's the same drill. And now this is really the start of some flow stuff. And this is why I think it's so important, because you start using 3-man flow concepts. It's really game-like. So same exact drill. We're going to throw it to our 3rd-string 5-man, who's going to dribble it. And now, is everybody paused there? So again, we'll do about 12 different things out of this too. And it's just Boston College, what we like to do. So we'll drive it hard. Number 13, who's under the hoop, will kick it to number 23, and we'll shoot that ball. This is just the next phase. So again, playing off pop, drift, drive baseline, drift corner, shot. The next one is, you can see my fat ass right there, kind of telling our guy to come to the basketball. And then it's 1 more passes. So we'll do that. And again, you just want little things to keep your guys engaged and understanding we have a defense that's not set, that we have an advantage. We want to keep that advantage flowing. So, and then you can add whatever you like to do. Like, we'll throw it back to the top. We'll dribble handoff. Let's see what this one is. There's a snap back to a hard drive to a relocate. And now the kid driving at number 11, he can reverse pivot, throw it back to 13, or he can snap it to the corner like he does. And that kind of gives you an idea of flow. That's our initial phases of flow movement. Does that make sense with everybody? Listen, I don't know, Keith, I don't know how you want to do this. If there's questions, stop me. Throw up the red flag, shoot a chat message. But if anybody has any questions, that go phase, again, I think everybody's kind of familiar with what they like to do and how far they'll let their kids in the go phase. I really focus in on this part right here, the flow phase. So if anybody has any questions, let me know.
Yeah, coaches, if you guys have any questions, just you can throw those in the chat or raise your hand or just ask away.
All right, you get a 3-second count. All right, perfect. We're going to move on, okay? So, again, this to me is where basketball really separates itself. And this is what I'm most passionate about. And again, these are my words. You guys can say, this dude is nuts. I think it's the most critical part of offense and most important. And I think it's the biggest separator, because there's a couple reasons why. You guys, all comparative to what your league you're in, there's a powerhouse and there's a guys that are lower on the totem pole. But I always said this: once you cross over half court and that defense is set, talent takes over. You can again move the defense to try to create your advantage. But once you kind of get over the half court and you start calling plays, the good teams can take you out of that pretty quick, especially in college basketball. I'm sure the same in high school, and so I don't want the talent to take over. I want to play that window as open as I can have it. And again, like the patience and Coach Christian and I fight about this. Like when we're really good, we'll do this flow phase 30 minutes a game or 30 minutes a day in practice. It takes a lot of patience, and you're going to have to take away some things and have to live with, maybe some coverages or some defensive stuff. But again, if you read this, in college basketball, it's not much different than in high school basketball. 23 is the low. Everybody in college basketball, you can be awful defensively, and you're going to get at least 23 opportunities where you're going to make a team miss and you're going to get a defensive rebound. Now, depending on your defensive, how good you are defensively, I stopped it at 30, but you can get upwards. I've seen teams get 33, 34 opportunities. You stop them and you rebound it, and then you could play within that muddy possession. Okay, so for us last year and the year before, last year we were actually better defensively. We just were under 28 possessions a game where we made a team miss and we defensive rebounded it. So if you got 28 possessions a game where you get a defensive rebound, and say you're let's just use 10. Say you're forcing 10 turnovers a game, so there's 38, and say you run 10 set plays where the team blows up your set play and you have to get back into flow phase, you're at 48 possessions just conservatively. There's only 70 possessions, 71, 72, 73, 74 possessions in a college game. So over half your possessions should result in some sort of flow phase, in my eyes. That means, I'm not the head coach. And Jimmy and I fight about it, man. I can't stand we're throwing the ball all over the gym, and we do. But I think there's something called a good turnover. I think there's something called an assist opportunity, which we'll talk about later after this if you guys have any analytical questions. I think there's something that gives you an opportunity to get great shot selection averages, SSA, something that we chart every shot that we take. And for us, if we can get over 21 points in the flow phase, we're really hard to beat because we are so good in the movement phase. And so basically what I refer to the flow phase is a seamless transition from the go, trying to score in under 7 seconds, into continuous movement where you're creating advantage and keeping an advantage. So play on penetration. And you can do that various ways: ball movement, penetration, player movement, spacing, paint touches. There's something that I've been working on lately, and it's so elementary, and I never even thought about it, is how to play off dribble drive penetration, where guys should go and open up. It's amazing. I watched all our offensive plays. We're dribbling it right, and then we're circling for a DHO on the same way where we should be pushing corners. So we're just shrinking our space. So stuff like that. And then what I talk about, a corner stuck. Anytime the ball gets thrown down to the corner, two things can happen. Either you get stuck or you can really initiate offense. And I think that's, if you're a poor flow team, you can get bottled up. If you're a good flow team and you understand what to do with the ball when the ball goes to the corner, I think it gives you an unbelievable opportunity to create offense. And you guys probably know that you're all really good coaches. And then again, like 8 to 12 possessions of play flow, and we actually, in our analytical breakdown from game to game, we call play flow, which is I run set play twirl and Louisville is up our butts and we cannot run twirl, or we initiate the first pass to a play set and our guy who caught the ball attacks on an advantage but can't score. What are you going to do after that? So that's what we call play flow. I should have put that in parentheses. Again, so again, if you're forcing 10 possessions, say you're getting 20, let's just say 25 possessions of I'm going to rebound it and we have a misadvantage break to a flow possession and then 10 possessions of play flow. It's 60% of your offense. So why don't you work at it and practice 60% of the time? That's my thought. Again, you guys, some of you guys are head coaches. You'd be like, man, I don't trust my kids. I'm going to walk that thing up every time. And like, I'll argue with Princeton coaches where they say, well, if you don't have the talent, why don't you slow down? And I said, well, again, like, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I also think Princeton teams can beat anybody one time. I don't know if Princeton teams, and I'll use my time at when I was at UNLV and TCU, like Air Force, they were pretty good, but other than Joe Scott's Air Force teams that were really talented, they could beat everybody, but they always finished middle of the pack or below, and they had less talent. And so I think my flow phase is you have to be just as disciplined as a Princeton style, especially with spacing and running floor and doing some things, sharing the ball. But it gives those guys that maybe aren't as good open opportunities to get some stuff done. Like, just like I said, if you allow your 3-man to push it and you're really comfortable with it, and we allow our 4-man to push it and we're really comfortable with it, you guys know this in high school basketball. I'll tell you in the ACC, if you can get your third and fourth best players to get some production, you're going to be pretty tough to beat. Like, we have to get to 71 points a game in the ACC. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean we can't win under, but at 71 points a game, you have an opportunity to win every single game. Every single game. Well, the only way to do that, unless you have Jerome Robinson who can get you 45, which we had and we don't have anymore. That's why he was the 13th pick of the draft. Well, you better get your third, fourth, and fifth, and sixth, and seventh guys some easy opportunities. I think this is the best way to do it. Again, my opinion solely. In a 40-minute game, those guys have to put up some kind of positive numbers. And I think it's the one phase that's so fluid and so wide open. If you can get your guys to understand, how to play off one another, play off pop, keep it in penetration, and kick and move, and then some guys make some open shots, I think you just become very dangerous. Does anybody have any questions on the phases, specifically this flow here? Otherwise, I'm going to show you some drill work, how we get to it. All good? All right, here we go. So 2+2 advantage drill. I'm not sure if I put this on with Coach Oliver or not. This has become a layer drill for us. So you're going to see the first version of it. As soon as the drill is over, I'm going to talk to you about the other things that we do, which you'll love. Basically, this is kind of an advantage drill. We'll play on advantage half the day in practice. It does a couple things. It promotes playing the right way. And I got this from Coach Gerg, who was with the Dallas Mavericks. The year the Dallas Mavericks won the NBA title, and they had Dirk and they had a bunch of Jason Terry and Jason Kidd. They were really, really good. He said, we were so good that we can kind of get any shot we wanted. We could just throw it to Dirk at the free throw line and he would score 80% of the time. But what we weren't good at was sharing the basketball. And so they decided, you know what, we're going to play on advantage, offensive advantage the whole day. And what it does is just promotes what I call assist opportunities. The ball just pops. You play on some sort of advantage, either if it's in this drill, it's just a space advantage. You could be playing 5 versus 3, 5 versus 4, 4 versus 2. So we play on advantage a ton. And what it does do, it promotes what we call assist opportunities. And so this drill is one of my favorites. We call it 2+2. You see Coach Christian on the baseline. He dropped it to Kyron Bowman. And so now we start doing our stuff live. And so if you guys can revert back, I'll ask the question and see if anybody's paying attention. So in our drill work, our first 2 drills that I showed, we dropped, where should Kyron Bowman, who has the ball right now, where should he be looking?
Early opposite.
Early opposite, right? So again, here, let me set the drill up. I did a poor job. You have the 2 guys on white are on defense, and you see the 2 guys on black that were across the free throw line. We have a 2-on-2 advantage here. And so the 2 guys on the baseline in white, you drop the ball to one of the best point guards in the country this year. You already create an advantage. And so, what happens in the beginning is the 2 guys on white, one of them stops the basketball, and they just throw it ahead and dunk it. So we're working on a turnover, right? And then the defensive guys this is a great transition defensive drill, by the way, too. The 2 defensive guys better sprint their ass back, or they're going to give up a layup like they will here. And 2, somebody on the bottom line defensively has to try to stop the basketball. So again, whoever got it right, I think it was he. Early opposite look, right? Looks exactly like our 2-man fast break, right? Or the 3-man fast break. This is why we do a ton of this. And so now he had vision, he had eyes. We scored in the go phase of our basketball, right? 7-second play. So we'll take this thing out. And again, I told you, this is a layered drill for us, but now it becomes a 4-on-4 drill, right? 4-on-4 back. In years past, we picked up 94 feet and made them really pressure the basketball. This time we just drop back. And again, okay, I'm going to give you it now. If we early opposite, like we just did, it's an attack or a shot. What do we do if it's early up? Same side, early up.
Driver post touch.
There it is, Jeremy. Bingo. So driver post touch. Now it's a 4-on-4 drill, right? But again, the 2+2 created advantage. And so the guy who's actually guarding the man who's going to catch it, he just laid it up. So you're really on a 4 versus 3 advantage. So we still consider this an advantage. So again, we compete for lanes. Since there's no 5-man, everybody runs wide. This is our backup 5-man catching the ball against our starting 3-man. So whoever earlied up to him was the vision, was the eyes. That means, bro, you're open, drive the shit out of it, right? You got to get 2 feet in the paint. We don't care if you go baseline or middle. You got to try to get 2 feet in the paint. And so, again, he's our 5-man. And so our 3-man can guard that real easy. So he does a good job reversing out. And this is my favorite. This is where I've been working the most out of flow basketball. Is we had an advantage. The advantage was taken away by great closeout. A 5-man trying to drive a 3 isn't going to work. And this is what we'd call corner stuck. So the ball's in corner. Now, how can we gain the advantage again? Does that make sense to everybody? It's pretty basic, right? So as you can tell, black set and loaded, 4-on-4 situation. The easiest thing you can do in corner stuck is not throw it station to station to station, which you see a lot of, is create movement and try to create your advantage back up, right? Makes sense? And so I'll rewind this and play full time. We get a cut. So now we get a collapse, and now again, it goes back to your flow phase or pop phase of how we're going to do this. Make sense to everybody?
Yeah, that's great, Coach.
And so you can do 2 things, and this is why I used it. If you guys remember the first one, he dropped it to Kyron Bowman, who was on the baseline on offense. Now this time he throws it up to Vin Baker Jr., his father, Finn Baker, played in the NBA for all those years. He throws it up to the same right side. So again, it's going to be the same version. What's he looking to do? We all know it. Early opposite. We live on that shot. We live on this. We'll take it every time. And so now it becomes 4-on-4, defensive set. I'll tell you what, too. You guys got the advantage of this. Is we probably practiced on our main court 4 times all this year, and so you get the look of seeing our home court. Usually it's ice. We're a big hockey playing team, so we never practice on our home court. So it's actually nice to see. And so now Stephon Mitchell, who I talked about, he's got the basketball. He's our power forward. We let him bring it up, and he slow was it, but he throws it. And Jeremy said it earlier, we earlied up. And so it creates a corner stuck. So Steph gets out. And the two things that we do early up is drive it, set defense we can't drive, or we throw it into the post. And we post cut. So I'm going to pause it there. Let me go back to that. Two things which I've been working on, and then I'll talk about the layer. One thing I've been working on is post cutting. I think it's really important, especially if you're not that talented. It's the second phase that I love. I'll just show you this. Jared Hamilton, who has the ball over his head and a set defense. And this is how we do it. You guys can, throw it out the window if you don't want it, if you don't like it. If we ever post feed with a stationary player, so number 4 is stationary, right? He's not on the dribble. He'll cut through the nail and opposite, and we'll play off that. And we all teach it. If we catch it and we one dribble baseline and sneak in that bounce pass, right? We will cut through the baseline early and deep. It's just quicker. And what it does do, it steers your post player. So in this case, Jared, who throws it into JC, who's our center, it tells JC, I'm going to clear space. You should go baseline on your move. And vice versa. If I dribble entered it and I cut baseline, we call it speed cut, like most people, it tells me I can do two things. Wait for you to cut, and then inside-outside pivot and face up, or I need to take him to the middle right away and either jump hook middle or spin back when I see it clear. Does that make sense to everybody? I think it's important. It's one of the things that I've fought with the most. And then the action you get off this, we could talk about later. But if you guys want to do a post-cutting Zoom, I'd love to hear your opinion, because I think it teaches you how to play basketball. It just adds to your go phase and your flow phase. And so we are stationary, so he'll cut through the middle, which steers JC. He's going to go middle and then crack back to there. Does everybody that makes sense to everybody? So go ahead. Question? No. Okay. So we call this drill 2+2 transition. It's the bottom layer, right? So basically explosion, go phase, you have the advantage, to returning 4-on-4. So against the set defense, you start working on flow concepts. So this is very early on for us. By the end of the season, this is what we get to, and I hope you guys can understand this. I didn't put this on there. That's what I mean by layers. We'll go 2+2, 4-on-4 back, and you see 13 right here that's in front of us. He's on this baseline. And so the continuation of this drill would be, and again, I told you guys, we love to play on advantage. 13, when they're coming down 4-on-4, as soon as they cross half court, 13 will stand right on the Eagle's head. He's going to be on offense next, and what's it turn into? 5 versus 4 the other way. So does that make sense to everybody? And then what happens is there's a black shirt that'll be on the baseline, or you can put them at half court. When the 5s go at the 4s, you could put the next 5. So now it becomes 5-on-5 the other way. Does everybody make sense to that? So let's do it again. 2+2, 4-on-4, 5 versus 4, 5 versus 5. Now, at the end of the year, and we'll just do this drill specifically for like 30 minutes because we don't practice very long. Once we get to the second 5-on-5, we'll put 2 minutes on the clock and we'll play a game. And so you get fatigue. You get guys that have to think while tired. If the ball goes in the hoop, Coach Christian or myself, we might call it a movement play. We might just play out of flow the whole day. We might get into our execute. You'll get into scenarios where it's a tie game and it's 10 seconds. We're gonna call flip 2. It's one of our execute plays. Can you run flip 2 without a timeout? In the nuts of the game, can you execute to win the game? And so I think it's one of the best drills we do. And that's what I mean by layers. You just keep adding dimensions to that. So 2-on-2, 4-on-4, or 2+2, 4-on-4, 5 versus 4, 5-on-5, 5-on-5 back, 2-minute game starts. And then you're going to get all your special situations out of that. And you're going to get unbelievable conditioner. And you're going to get pissed off because the ball's going to be all over the gym. But again, patience is the key, especially because you're not going to make a lot of buckets there. Once you start getting fatigued, you're not going to make a lot of buckets. You're going to get into that flow segment so much. And I think it's awesome. Questions on that, guys?
Now, Coach, that's a good twist that we can all add to our open gyms. Instead of just rolling the ball out and playing 5-on-5 pickup, start with 2-on-2, build up to 4-on-4, 5-on-4, 5-on-5. And like you said, finish with a couple minute segment. That's awesome.
Or you just say, okay, we're gonna play to 3. Once you get to 5-on-5, okay, now the game starts, guys. First bucket wins. Game point mentality. I think that's the one thing that we lose the most out of AAU. I love AAU basketball, and I don't know if anybody coaches AAU basketball. The one thing we lose out of AAU basketball the most is the drive of competition to win at all costs, because AAU says, I play at 11. Well, shit, if I lose, don't worry about it. I'm going to try to win at 2:30. Shit, if I lose at 2:30, don't worry about it. I'm going to try to win at 6. And it just kind of gives these guys, like, you can build in a lot of different things within your practices. Like, okay, maybe we're not as competitive today. We're going to do the drill. First team to score. The next team has double down and back in 22 seconds. All right, let's do it again, boys. So that's one of our nitty gritty ones. Again, I only showed you the basic phase, layer 1. When this thing gets to layer 4 and 5, it's awesome. It is awesome. Okay. Let's move on to the next drill. And hopefully you guys find the advantage of doing this practice stuff and not just the game. I know if I was sitting there, and guys, I've done probably 40 Zooms, spoke at probably 20 of them. Once game stuff comes on and it's basically telling me what I can just watch, I kind of tune out. So that's kind of why I do practice. I'm sure you guys are the same way. This is another drill that we love to do.
Sorry to interrupt you. You had a question there in the chat room.
Uh-oh. Where's my chat room at? Can somebody just read it?
Yeah, he's asking, where is the 5th defensive player entering the floor from?
The 5th, it would be the 5th offensive player. He would enter.
Sorry, I think when it turns into 5-on-5.
Yeah. So if we can kind of visualize this, so it would be 5 versus 4, and so the next offensive guy would make it 5-on-5. So it would go back to the 4-on-4. Does that make sense to you guys? Or no?
Yeah, that does.
So as you can tell, you have 4 white. So white's on defense here. 13 should be at half court on the next layer. So when that ball went through the hoop, we don't even take this thing out of. We don't even take it out of bounds. We take it right out of the hoop. So just vision this. Sorry. Vision the white taking it out of the net. And so the black jersey who was just on offense, he better get his butt back. Otherwise, he's going to throw it over the top. And so white will have 5 offensive players and black has 4. And so the next guy comes on to make it even would be a black offensive guy. So you're only playing advantage one way. And so black would make it even at 5-on-5. Does that make sense or no?
Yeah, that's great.
He can come in wherever he wants. We usually put the guys at half court. And so, we all talk about like defensive balance. When the shot goes up, who's the guy all the way back? If the guy all the way back on defense isn't there, you just throw it over the top and catch a layup. And so we always put our extra guys that come in at half court. So there's an element that says when shots go up, like in this case, it would be Chris Herron Jr. You guys might know his dad, Chris Herron. If 13 was at the next layer, he was at half court. Well, Chris, you better get back. Otherwise, we're going to throw it to 13 because you don't even have to take the ball out of the net. You don't have to take it out of bounds. And so the 5-on-5 would turn back the same exact way. Okay. Does that answer your question? I hope. Somebody? Whoever asked.
Yeah, I think that was Coach Thornton.
Coach T, good? He doesn't want to. Nervous?
Yeah, I think we're good, Coach.
Okay. So the next drill we love to do is 5-on-0 lanes to an advantage. Again, I tell you guys, you're going to get sick of me because this is all I care about, playing on advantage and playing the right way. So 5-on-5 lays. So again, if you go back to one of the first slides, we compete for lanes. We don't care who's where, what, when, and how. If you're the 5-man, you'll trail. If you're the 5-man, you'll run the rim and then get to the dunk spot. And so this kind of just gives us an idea of how to run lanes, whoever rebounds the basketball. So we'll circle them. And in this case, Coach Christian yelled the name Nico. So Nico right now, this will be a tough one because we're playing with 2 5-men for some reason. The kid in the white jerseys are our backup 5. So Nico touches the backboard. And so we work on our first 3 steps on the sprint. And then you see Nico would be the trail. So we, in this case, we told both 5-men, hey, one of you grab the rim, one of you guys trail. So it should invert on the way back. And what I do is that's my fat ass on the baseline down there. I throw it to anybody. I could throw it as a rebound. I could throw it to a corner like a steal. And what we do is we push it back and we start getting into flow options, go options into flow movement, pop. And so here we go. You see we're competing for the lanes. You see the white kid right here with the white shirt on telling our wings get the corner. He's going to fill high. So right now we're a big video team. So you can see this, the kid number 2 right in front of us. His ass needs to get to that X. So I sent him this clip. I know I did because it was 2 years ago. Like, why are you so lazy? Get your butt to the X so we could play. Jeremy said it, time before. If we early up, we either drive it or throw it in the post. So we threw it in the post and he scored out. Okay. Here's another one. Just work on running lanes. And so here we go. And then we'll go right into our advantage drill. Everybody see this? And so we'll have another coach on the baseline dictate, okay, how many guys? 3 guys, 4 guys. It might be even with 5 guys. But again, we want to look early opposite. And this is I sent this same clip to Jarius Hamilton, who's in the corner. This is an early opposite, one more corner. And that's what we call double-sided fast break. Everybody good with that? Everybody understand that? So Jarius takes an awful shot for the Boston College Eagles because he takes an awful 2. But early opposite, and we get the first pass. And this is why we do it. Like you see Vin Baker Jr. in the white jersey under the hoop. And it happens against 5-on-5 all the time. Like, his responsibility now is to get to the corner because we were loaded. We shift the defense. And again, if you're lazy or uninformed or you don't trust your teammates, it doesn't matter if it's 3 versus 5 or 5 versus 5. This shot comes off more often than not. And Jarius takes 2, which is awful. But again, it's just more for teaching purposes. Again, speed. We got a post player. We got a 4-man. It's a 5-man who outletted it. Like, this ball should be cross-courted already. So this is a clip I sent to Winston Tabbs. He over dribbles a little bit, but again, we finally get to the double-sided fast break, and Kyron Bowman, who is in the hole playing the post, he's got a shift. So one guy tries to play 2, and we get a great 3. Okay. And again, you can add layers to that. Same exact thing. That's layer 1. It went, we saw 2 clips, 5 versus 3. It could be 5 versus 4. It could be 5 versus 5. But then you could do it the same exact way we talked about with 2-on-2, 2+2 fast break. You just put more guys in. So go back at them 5-on-5, and then play that live, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever you wanted to do. Pretty good. Everyone's okay with that? Kind of a piggyback of what we did. We do that drill all the time in the summer just to get our guys understanding, stop shrinking space, make sure your butt gets all the way to the baseline, and we'll go from there. Okay. So this is something that we love to do, especially 2 years ago. We were really good. We had Kai Bowman, Jerome Robinson, Jaddy, some guys that are playing at a high level. So we play these 3-on-3 small-sided games a ton. And basically what it is we've really talked about playing on an advantage. We've really talked about, playing off pop and making the ball move and keeping that defensive, rotating and playing in gaps. So this this is what we would do if we got to stop in the Virginias of the world who send everybody back. So now we start to get a little bit of our phase of, okay, set defense. How do we get an advantage back? And we do a couple things. We kind of talked about corner stuck when the ball gets thrown through, what we do. These are wave plays. So what you have to envision in this is kind of coming down in our shell spots, or we call X spots for transition, corner, trail, PG in the slot as we are here. And how can we create movement to open up double gaps so we can drive it, so we can penetrate it. And this is a drill we do a ton. We kind of made this up as we went. It was 2 years ago, we kind of just – so if everybody can see this, red or maroons on offense. And so the kid that's going to the right corner, he was actually trailing, and Kai Bowman waved him through. So we'll wave through the trailer and send him to the corner, okay? And so whenever I know there's no post player, but for us, our post player always finds the ball, the same side of the ball, tries to get a post touch, and then steps off and stays wherever the ball was. So our post player never chases the ball. At least we don't want him to. Sometimes our guys do because they're so hungry to get the ball in the post. But envision this, 4 out, trailer has been waved through to the corner. And so the corner guy will start creeping up a little bit, and Kyron's going to play the double gap and then hit. And so a lot of guys hate this. We don't care. If it goes guard to guard like it is here, we call them go cuts or slip cuts. We won't brush cut this because of fouls, and it's 2 guards. They're going to switch anyway. We just want to try to create confusion and try to get an advantage to drive the ball. And so Kai hits Chatty, and he slip cuts, and both defenders go with the slip cut, and now you've created an advantage. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think this is our first time we did it. So these guys in the yellow, we call them the Martians. We have an unbelievable scout team. And so I'm no dummy. Like, I like to have offense be really comfortable and have confidence. So I set this up and like, okay, first time, Kai cuts through, both go with Kai. And so you start reading, and now Chatty, all he's got to do is read the bottom guy. And now this is kind of like the Chris Oliver, what's the decision off this? So I'll rewind this and let this go. So he's been waved through, corner cut. These are all waves, and there's different things you do, and obviously we would attack that. There's a wave, there's a hit, there's a slip. Now they both go to the ball. He can drive it or shoot it. There's a wave, there's a slip, drive, and Bowman does what he usually does. There's a wave, a lazy one, by the way. Slip, throw back, drive, kick. Okay, so that's if you have your transition lanes and the defense is set. How do you create the advantage again? How do you get the defense shifting? That's a wave through. There's different things you could do. You can wave the corner. We don't really like to do that because, again, I think I like to throw it to the corner and get corner stuck and run offense off that. And again, for us, we have no idea who's going to be where. So our guys really have to have an understanding of who am I playing with and how do we get the advantage. And so this one would be a wave through, and the bottom guy's a big. And so we'll just DHO this and create the same advantage that we would. Now, this is where you'll get frustrated and have to have patience, because anytime the ball gets thrown back to your big guy, it takes them a while for the decision-making purposes. So here's a wave with a guard over. And so, Steph, there's a wave. And again, we have a big guy, a 4-man, who's filled the corner. Okay, so here he comes. So depending on what you guys like to do here, you can inside pin for the big, but, our league, they would just switch this. So we use our advantage and we just flip it right back to them and try to create with space. And so this is one thing, and I don't know if you guys will understand this. This is what I've been working on. And so if there's a scenario like this, and if you guys can envision this, and this is where I do a much better job than most guys. say there's a corner occupied here, right? Because you're all probably like, well, at 5-on-5, where would he be driving? And it's a good point. And so our post player would be on this right block here because he always stays on that block. We obviously have the corner filled same side. And so when Kyron Bowen gets this handoff and you're driving into an occupied corner, this is what I've been working on, and it makes so much sense. I don't even know why I wouldn't do it. So you got your post player. When Kai gets this handoff, we'll backdoor cut baseline. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. It's a big international concept. I watch a ton of international games. And what will happen is this corner that's already occupied, our right corner, he'll fill up, and our post player, our 5-man, he'll go to the corner. And so what happens is once that corner guy cuts back door, his man stays and help. You know, we play against a lot of gap defenses, and a lot of times Kyle will turn this corner, and he'll throw a left-handed bounce pass back door because the 5-man, X5 chases the 5-man out for some reason, and we kind of just open up that space. Now, if it would be a stacked, what we call two-sided or stacked, the guy that would be in the 45, he would push to the corner, and the corner guy would still cut back door. Does that make sense? I know this is not the topic, but this is some of the stuff I've been working on lately to create more space and more an opportunity to be a playmaker. And so here, Kai beat him back door, takes his natural ability. Again, there's a reason why he plays for Golden State Warriors. And so we've already waved it. He's through the corner. And now this read off this, throwback. And now you got your big playing downhill, playing again. Does that make sense to everybody? So we'll do a shit ton of 3-on-3s like that. Everything that we like to do. Again, you guys might not like DHOs. You might set ball screens there. Again, there's different ways to create an advantage. In our flow phase, we don't like to get two guys close to the ball for more than a count. So we don't like to set a ball screen because, as you guys probably in your leagues, guys just switch that and you really don't have an advantage anymore. You're actually slowing yourself down, what I think. It's where people think I'm nuts. But I want to make sure we're playing fast, playing double gapped, creating enough confusion to get downhill and play off penetration. And so we won't set a ton of ball screens. We might drag a ball screen if our 5-man trails, but we don't even like to do that anymore. And so this is kind of the nuts and bolts of flow. You kind of saw the movements, and now this is something that's progressed over the years. It used to just be an extra pass drill for us. Now it's turned into flow offense, and we call it offensive rebound extra pass. Not certain. And so we were lazy this day. What I usually do is stand at this elbow, and I bounce it off the deck. It hits the backboard, and our 5-man comes and dunks it. For me, I was lazy because I was more concerned about the cutting. That's why we call it offensive rebound extra pass. So again, you can flip it off the backboard, bounce it off the floor, hits the backboard, and the guy dunks it. The guys love it. Kind of gets everybody motivated. We play music through our whole practice. That's one thing that we love to do. And so what our big guy does is he'll get it and dunk it. And now we start worrying about, okay, flow movement and what we like to do. Jarius, who's the closest to us in the 45, should be out more on this volleyball line. Everybody else is a good spot. So the guy who offensive rebounded and scored, he takes it out of net. He can throw it to anybody he wants. Anybody he wants. This case, he throws it to the corner. And so what do we do in the corner? What do we call it? Like I'm yelling this right now, corner stuck. I think you can do some things, and I've changed over the years. This is kind of the old thing that I used to like to do. We could talk about the new thing if you guys want, but it's really irrelevant because it's a work in progress. So we cut through. We exit cut all the way to the corner. We'll hit. And again, if you guys recall, we'll never throw station to station to station. So we threw it up to station. And if you guys want purposes, like everybody runs shell drill. So we get in our shell spots just on offense. So 5 won't throw that down. He'll wave through, and guess what drill we're in? 3-on-3, right? And so this is where I'm talking about with a corner stuck. So I'll show it right here. Hold. So say Jairus, instead of throwing it back, these guys would have to play in a swivel, the two guys on the baseline, the two white guys on the baseline. If he dribbled it left-handed, Nico would have to go. We would go with the backdoor cut, and 23 would be sliding to the corner to open that up. That's something I've been working on lately. But we throw that back, so that's fine. Again, these are all going to be corner stucks. I kind of put him that, but he could throw this ball anywhere he wants to throw it. He corner stucks it, so it's a quick wave. Through, hit. Again, you can sign and see what I'm talking about here. The kid number 2, light-skinned kid who just threw the ball. You can see him coming towards it. He should be going away from it. So this turned into 2 corner stucks. And again, like Jeremy said, anytime we throw the ball down, it's either dribbled or thrown in the post, or we cut through. Does that make sense to everybody? Pretty basic, right? And so we'll do the same exact drill, but we'll do it 5-on-5 with our scout team. And so obviously before, going into this, you have a built-in advantage. These are all kids that are paying $71,000 a year on defense. They're not scholarship guys. So we have the built-in advantage with some guys that are really good. But what it does do, it works on timing, spacing, assist opportunities, which we call AOs, shot selection average. Like I told you guys, every shot we take in practice and games is charted 0 to 4. Everybody gets a shot selection average after every game, after every practice. Our team gets one. And, if we want to talk high-level analytics, there's only 2 things I care about in terms of high-level analytics, and that's assist opportunities and shot selection average. What it does do, it gives you an opportunity to figure out how you play and if you're playing the right way. And we could talk about that at the end. Just somebody remind me. So this is just the piggyback. It's the next layer. So offensive rebound, extra pass, thrown to the corner. Here it comes again. We wave, we hit, we wave. Create your advantage. Backdoor cut, layup. Everybody's happy, right? You see Coach Christian, he's like, wow, shit, that thing works. You see him on the baseline, he's in a white shirt. Still gives you guys an opportunity to use their natural abilities. His old coach, give him a clap, coach. There it is. All right. Eagles are playing hoop. And so we just piggyback this. And again, for you guys who don't have scout teams, you can layer this thing out. We've done this where you can tell one of your defensive guys or one of your offensive guys to drop out. So we would run offensive rebound, extra pass like we would here, and whoever scores it doesn't get back on defense. So now you're playing an advantage 5 versus 4. If that makes sense. So like Jarius, who just it's the same 3-on-3 drill. It's working. Jarius, who just scored the hoop, he would go out. And then the white, who have 5, would attack 5 versus 4. Does that make sense to everybody? Again, that's my terminology. I always call it layers to drills. And then you can, once you attack 5-on-4, hopefully scored, you could bring Jarius, the guy who just scored it, back and play 5-on-5, 1 possession. And it just gives your guys an opportunity to keep playing with one another, how to create the advantage. And another corner stuck. Hit. So that right there, frowned upon. It's because why? What do I talk about? Station to station, right? Station to station. Not a big fan of it. Again, it was quick enough movement, but we have not created an advantage. Defense is not shifted. It's not been loaded at all, right? You can tell the 5 defensive guys in white, they're still loaded to the basketball. So I hate station to station passes. I'll let you throw it to one station, but the next station doesn't do you any good. And so let's see what we get. A little curl cut. Okay, so we have a corner stuck here. Again, just like in our go phase, when the ball gets corner stuck, you got 2 things you can do it: drive it, throw it to the post. And in this case, we throw it to the post. We set a nice little brush screen, and he goes to work. Right. So remember what we talked about: post feeding. Stationary post feeder, where does he go? Through the nail, create some confusion, set a screen. And then this is what I've been working on, and you guys are going to hate me for this, but I apologize. So my new post cutting, I think we've all seen European teams throw it in the post cut, and then dribble out and DHO. I took a concept that Richmond does extremely well. So in this post feed, first off, we told the post player where he can go. And so the kid coming off this screen should be running out where Coach Christian is with his hands on his hip, wide NBA spacing. Let's just say, for instance, that our post player doesn't score this with the right-hand hook. Say he gets jammed up and they create a good wall. And so what happens is Irvin's, the white kid, should be going to X. We set this little brush cut, or he should be cutting through opposite. And what I've been working on now, and I think we're going to do it, if we can't score this ball on the post, this kid, the white kid that's coming towards us in the left, should be going to the corner. The nail guy, who's number 5, who kind of gets stuck, he should be sliding through to the free throw line extended, and the corner guy always stays corner, so he shouldn't be slipped up. And so what happens, it kind of opens up all your space. And so our post player will throw it right to the top of the key, which is number 2 right here. He's got his hands cocked, ready to shoot. And if he doesn't shoot it, he chases his pass, and he goes right into a flat ball screen. So if that makes sense to everybody, I apologize for kind of skipping some steps and not showing it. But the 2 things I've been working on is post cutting and then actions out of the post, and then some stuff when the ball gets thrown to the corner, some stuff I'm loving. But this is one of the things, if we can't score it, number 5, we set the brush on this kid right here at the elbow. His ass has got to get out. Our right corner guy should still be on the X. And if Nico doesn't score it, he throws it right to the top of the key, and he chases his own pass, and he sets a flat middle. And then it's on, because you can't guard that. He goes and gets 2 points for us. And corner stuck. Movement. Good wave by Tabs. I'm going to show this one again, because I'm going to show you, like, spacing is poor. And again, we all understand maybe the defensive guys. These guys would probably be your first or second, probably second, because some of you guys have, I'm sure, have Division I players. Like, every one of these kids on white can play Division III basketball. They're actually that good. They're all really good high school basketball players. Number 20 had an opportunity to go to Williams College, which is one of the best Division III schools in the country. He decided to come to BC as a walk-on. Same thing with the white kid at the top of the key. He's from California. He could have gone to the Claremont College. It's a really good school. But, even though this spacing is kind of shitty, it's pretty good teaching, because our guys, they kind of figure it out. He's on a wave and he cuts. So look at, we literally have 4 guys that can hold each other's hand, right? I mean, it's awful. But you're going to get put in those spots. Like we talked about with play flow, you're going to be running a play and somebody gets so denied that he's just got to release pressure and drive it. Well, he might be driving into this situation. Obviously, you don't want it, but you better figure out how to play out of it. That's the unstructured part. That's the gray area that you got to go. And now the guy who just kicked it is our 4-man. So he sets a little runaway screen and he gets a wide open look. Okay. So again, I apologize for going long on the flow phase, but in my eyes, in my heart, it's the most important part of basketball. So if anybody has any questions on the flow phase, I'd love to answer.
Coach, you play through your posts a lot, talking about your post feeds, and the guy who makes the pass, we always say the feeder is the leader. He can basically cut wherever he wants, and he can also do a split there. Your flow is predicated on that, right? Yeah,
exactly. And again, I think we're going to do a much better job this year, really designating the feeder and where he needs to lead to, because it drives your post. Like I said, if we're in a stationary post feeding situation, it's almost impossible to restart and cut baseline. It just takes too long. And so if we're stationary, we talked about cutting through the nail. Shit, I think we might cut at the 18, 19, 20 foot mark, just so we can give him more space. And then what we want to get off of it, just like the Europeans, man, that's why European basketball is so intriguing to me. Another thing I'm studying is out of bounds under. Because I'm not a huge out of bounds under guy, but the Europeans, they get the ball in bounds and they're running plays. It's awesome. I don't know if you guys have synergy or not, but watch Australia in the Olympics. They run one simple set, but it's ridiculous. And so, and if you're dribbling baseline and you're post feeding it, man, just wrap and go. It's like a speed cut. It's like a fly pattern in football. So what we try to work on is the fastest way to get out of the way and create space. So yeah, it's interesting, man. I could talk post feed, post cutting for hours. I love it. I don't know why. Cause again, maybe I should have been coaching in the 80s when the ball went to the post almost every possession. But I think it's an unbelievable way, and it doesn't even have to be your 5-man. Like we run some sets. If you want to see somebody do it perfect, watch Villanova. Like the way they get the ball to the post the most, and they use their guards. They'll take their post player who's on the strong side block, and they'll lip them like cut them backwards. So he'll go from block to block out, and they'll dribble handoff to the same side of where he started from. And he'll fake a dribble handoff, and then they just get right in the post. I mean, that's how they post the ball. Like 80% of their actions is off a fake handoff and literally go perimeter and just show the butt and go to the post. And then they work off that and think about putting a 5-man in on the perimeter with post cutting where he can start setting some screens and freeing up shooters and drivers. So it's well worth a watch if you want to watch some post actions. Villanova is really good at it. And so now, can I moving on?
You don't mind?
Yeah, go ahead, Jer.
First of all, on a corner stuck, did you have a chin action you talked about or mentioned?
Yeah, this is exactly what I've been working on. And so depending on, and you're going to have to envision this because this is just my words. I can actually, hang on. Oh, shit. I have my board downstairs, but afterwards I'll get it. So we'll try to envision this. So when the ball goes to the corner stuck, and in those, we call them exit cuts. I think everybody does. So I throw it down. My job is to create space and go to the opposite corner. And again, against really good teams, I think it was a little bit too easy to get taken out of that. But it's okay. You go back door, but then your spacing kind of gets screwed up. And so on that exit cut, if you follow me around, so I throw it to corner stuck. You got your post on the same side because he's always down there. If I throw it down, the post stays. I'm going to exit cut, and I'm going to get to the dotted line. And you never get denied if you're filling from the trail spot to the point guard slot. So if everybody can hang on. Oh, here it is. I think do I have to stop sharing this so I can show this to you guys? What do you guys
Yeah,
think?
that'd probably be helpful.
Yeah. Hang on one second. I'm pinwheeling. Okay. We good here or no?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. I'm 100% Polish, so bear with me. So, good, bad, too close, too far?
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're in our transition lanes, and I just put everybody kind of on a made break. So if the ball gets thrown down corner stuck, and I'm again, I think you need to play with a lot of movement and freedom. And so if the ball is broken and waved, we're going to play what we just watched. I think a good thing might to get a little bit more control back because we put too much faith in our 5-man, I think, last year. and he got a little crazy. He was really skilled, maybe too skilled. Like if you watch Creighton play, Creighton's 5 men are just good enough where they don't get you beat. They get a little nervous and they get it back to the playmaker. Marcus Zagorski is one. I think he's the best point guard in the country. He's worth watching. So here's some things. The ball can be ping-ponged around, and say you get it here and you get it thrown to the corner. You know, we were working on these exit cuts where everybody just does that, right? I think that gets you denied a little bit too easy, especially in the ACC. The one thing that never gets denied is this pass. So I'm gonna hit corner stuck, and I'm gonna whip through and I'm gonna whip high. This pass has never been taken away in 5 years. And I'm gonna push this kind of like that Spurs cut, and I'm gonna get it right here. And so now you guys can probably see the setup. Again, this is just kind of a given, but it could be like this for us, you know, because we're competing for spots. And so right now, he would reverse it. If the ball's thrown or held, we chin it right out. And so now you get into some things that you might like to do.
Yeah, I like that.
And so for us, you know, if the ball's thrown, say it's thrown through, you know, this is your actions, right? So you flare this to tight rapid. You could flare it. You know, this is one of the hardest hits. For some reason, I don't know if you guys are – I'm a big Princeton guy. They hit this flare and they freeze. You guys probably seen it. They stop. They literally stop, and then they take this shit on, right? It's ridiculous. But, you know, he goes off, and this is what I like too. Again, it goes back to your terminology of how much do you trust your guys. So say he throws off, we hit here, catch, and another one of my huge comps, I call them flippies. It's a kind of an old school thing. It used to happen a lot to us. BYU was really good at this. Was Jimmer for that? He would go set a screen. He would get screened 4, and they'd flip right back and set that ball screen to the open sided. You know, it's like that. And then I'll show you a couple things that, like if it was like this. So say it came from this way. What am I doing here? Came from this way. Again, we would do this. I'm thinking about this. This is where people call me crazy. Not rolling on any ball screen this year. And if I'm going into the double-sided, is using exactly what I just talked about, is using this guy as the roll, this guy as the push, and then this guy's the throwback, and then playing. It's so simplistic. If I'm dribbling right, you need to get to your right side. If I'm dribbling left, you need to push guys to the left. I mean, I don't know why I never thought about that. I watched a clinic the other day, Division III guy in Maine. I can forward it to you guys. It's actually on YouTube. If you want me to, hang on, I'll tell you exactly what it is. I'm probably like you guys. My notes is so loaded up with like all basketball stuff. Google search this. You offensive guys will love this. It's called Why NBA Teams Should Study a School You've Never Heard of. It's a 2-part series, and this guy does a breakdown of this Division III school in Maine. It's awesome. And it's something that's simplistic, like with dribble drive and playing off it. Like, again, you watched us in some of our flow concepts. Like we're dribbling it, and we're trying to circle and DHO when we're just shrinking our space. So we were awful at it last year. But Jeremy, does that make some sense? Like, because you can get into it a bunch of different ways.
Yep.
You know, and again, like 5 trail stuff is the same thing for me. You know, like if the ball gets thrown through, I love flippies to re. I just don't want to come down and drag it.
Yeah. Oh, and while we got the board out, I was a little muddy on the actual like wave alignment. And so is it
Sure.
a 5 trailing, or is there a 5 posting up and somebody else is waving?
Yeah. So you would be in your traditional whatever it is. Again, I'm just like this. And so we want to change sides of the floor. And so our wave would be the trail. Again, we don't want to get station to station. And so he would wave, he would hit, and then we'd get whatever. And then I'll get you guys with this. Say we get nothing. This is what we did last year, and we call it activate. We would throw it to the 5-man, and then we'd play.
Gotcha.
So we would change sides of the floor probably twice with it. Jaron, if we didn't get anything, our guys would activate, which would bring out our skilled 5. And then you could do a shit ton of things, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, if the 5-man, you can get it from 4, throw it right back, and then you get right into what? Flip action. You know, and then you cut here, just stay 5 spaced. You can have it here, and you could dribble at backdoor 45 DHO. He would have to wrap out. He pushes, he goes back door, and then you got the throwback. In my eyes, in this day in basketball, I'm really hesitant now to roll 5-man because I would rather take a wide open 3 than turn that thing over.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how you guys in your high school or college basketball how teams play that, but that's our only advantage at BC is playing through our 4s and 5s.
Appreciate you, Coach.
Yeah, no problem.
Coach, do you guys use the magnetic boards in game?
We do. Do you guys have more time? Do you want to go into move phase? You want to ask questions? I mean, it's up to you.
It's all on your watch, Coach. If you have time, we're all in.
I don't want to bore any. And again, this is going to be more like, okay, you're going to see a ton of things that we worked on. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Let me optimize. You guys good with this?
Yep.
So, okay. There's a lot of concepts that we work on in our flow phase that you're going to see very redundant in our move phase. Again, my fight with Coach Christian is he wants to get to this phase as fast as possible. And when we're really good offensively, we have an unbelievable flow phase, which only helps our move phase. And so it's basic. It's exactly why we call it move phase. Again, I challenge anybody to find a better offensive coach when the ball goes through the hoop in terms of making the other team move and using your 4s and 5s. So basically, you're just trying to make all 5 guys move, trying to create the advantage. We have 2 types of movement phases, which is a 94-foot play, which most team would call secondary break, structured, and then half-court sets. Again, you guys heard enough of it from me. The only advantage we have in the ACC is trying to manipulate a guy like Vernon Carey, who's 6'10", 270 pounds, against our 6'9", 235-pound skill guy. We want to put him in places where he's not comfortable. And again, that goes back to what we do with our 4s and 5s. When your 4-man's your second leading assist guy, it kind of shows you how we play. And again, we mask common actions with different entries, and we mirror a lot of our flow stuff, DHOs, big littles, brush screens, spacing, cutting, after what we do in the flow phase. So here we go. So these are actually going to be some game stuff and some actual plays. And so this is one of our staples. This is for the last 5 years, this play has been over a 1.1 points per possession. We call it tilt. And basically you're just changing sides of the floor and then getting into a brush DHO open-sided. As you'll see here, it's our 5-man with the ball at the top of the key. DHO with the 2, downhill. And then, again, this is what we talk about with how plays, set calls turn into flow basketball. Two-sided fast break. Okay, elbow put in this year. I stole this concept, one of the concepts from Australia last year. It's a movement play. There's a lot going on. You guys can watch it. If you have any questions, just shoot it out. I think you guys can kind of see, you know, it resembles a lot of what we do on our flow phase. We want to make sure we're moving the defense, getting opportunities and playing off each other. It's a play we put in last year. Point two, change size of the floor, cut through, lift our four-man over the top. Against Duke, take that, Coach K. 6-0 Eagles. Okay, and then if anybody has any questions, go ahead and shoot for that. If not, we can go to this execute phase, and I can answer a bunch of questions. Or why don't we just hold off questions because this is quick, and this is something everybody's kind of familiar with. So this is important to us because these execute plays are for our best players or the hot player. Those guys deserve to be rewarded, and we will reward them. When these plays are called, nobody breaks them off. Now, if they get taken away, we flow right into play flow. But if this play is not called for you, you better not dribble that ball. You better get it to the guy we want it to get to. Otherwise, your ass is coming out of the game, to be honest with you. And so some opportunities are game winners, crunch time plays, mismatches, shot clocks, stuff like that. And for the most part, the opponent knows these are coming. Can we execute enough to win? And I put this on there last week, the last dance. Kukoc, like Scottie Pippen wasn't all that happy that Kukoc got that last call, but at the end of the day, that fucking ball went to Kukoc, and look what he did. And so that's kind of our same mentality. Okay, so I use this with Jerome Robinson. For you guys who don't know it, Jerome Robinson was like a 450th, 480th best player in the country coming out of senior year in high school. And, with development and offense, he turned into a lottery pick. So a lot of these are for Jerome. Flip two is a huge play we used to run. So he starts on one side, traditional alignment, four-man cuts through. Romy goes off. We would throw this lob. You see him coming off the back screen. But we really want to get to this flip two, especially against, like you see NC State. This is York 7 in the white at the ACC logo, who was just at Georgetown, transferred to Georgetown. But if you're not going to show on a pin, we're going to throw to him every time, and he's going to get that every single time. This is a playoff tilt, which was the first play we watched in movement. This is for a hot shooter. And so we run the same exact play we would. So everybody's like, oh, tilt's coming. And what we do is, we take this European circle and we pin the shit out of it. We get our hot shooter the ball. Utah is another play for a hot shooter. Again, but as you guys could see, you're all great basketball coaches. Our execute phase has a ton of movement in it too. So like the defense might know this shit is coming, but at the end of the day, like, okay, go ahead and stop it. So we chin cut it. It's supposed to be a handoff. We kind of forget the play. Sets it up, and we just set this little pin. Chatty was mid 9 threes in an ACC game. And this is kind of just an L3. Again, you can see the movement, little pin, rescreen, stuff like that. So you can kind of tell, like even Heath, you did an unbelievable job in your pre-video. Like if I could correct you, some of the phases that you put, some of those were in the movement phase, some of those were, but at the end of the day, like you don't know, like how do you scout us? If you can catch at least 21 points in the flow phase, which is, if you work at it, it's usually pretty easy. We like to be close to the 30s. And then your movement package is such like it is for us. And then, you got an execute phase. How long are they going to take on you? How long can they scout you? They can only scout you for a few things. And then again, that's the reason why I think I don't know if it was Nate or Jeremy, like you talked about some ball screens, but we don't like to set a ton of ball screens because you're going to worry about all that. And then all of a sudden, you know, we've always had great point guards. We're going to go run into a flippy ball screen or just a run out ball screen. Oh shit, we forgot to even work on their ball screen coverages. You know, so it's kind of, again, I think some of you might have heard me say this. I know Heath, you did. Like, we're totally opposite everybody else. So like when we go into a game, Coach Christian and I will sit down in his office, and the first thing we ask each other is how we're going to get to 71. Where most schools are like, what? We got to worry about this player. We got to worry about stopping this play. We're the other way around. If you can't score, you're not going to win regardless, or you're going to win a much lower percentage of your games. Like we walk into this, okay, you're playing Louisville when Coach Pitino was at Louisville. They pressed you to one of the best matchup zones ever in the history of basketball. How are you going to score? You know, the one thing about the ACC, which I love because I'm a basketball junkie, is you got the gold standard for every single way to play. So, you know, like I just talked about pressure and matchup. You had Coach Pitino, you know, who's obviously not there now, but you had him. You have the gold standard of a 2-3 defense, right? You get Syracuse. You guys watch every year. Like some people literally, I don't know if it's arrogance or they just don't understand. Like, oh, we're playing Syracuse. We're going to walk in there with our 2-3 zone offense. Like, bro, you might score 6 points. You know, gold standard in 2-3. You got the gold standard in Virginia on gap defense and ball screen coverage. Like, you better know how to score against Virginia. Otherwise, you're not going to score. Listen, I think we're really good offensively. Those 3 teams, they've held us to 20 points at halftime. And we work on it. Like, we're trying to – we're just not – here's what we do against this. We're putting in different packages. And so, you know, again, my fight with coaches, we have to be better in flow situations just so all your other phases are so much better in terms of that. So that kind of gives me an idea or gives you guys an idea. That's funny. Ryan said, I'm not leaving because I'm bored. It's great stuff. You know, that kind of gives you, again, and I've talked to NBA guys. I've talked to high school coaches. Like one of the guys I respect the most of coaches is my high school coach. He's like, man, you're nuts. You're never gonna be good enough to score that many points. And I said, well, no, I'm not nuts. You're impatient. Again, it doesn't happen overnight, just like anything else. What you stress is what you're going to be good at. I think the majority of us coaches, us, me included, we stress the wrong things. Where is your window of opportunity? Find it and be good at it. And I've fallen on the skill development portion, and I've fallen into that one specific phase of offensive basketball. I know everybody's a good coach in this room in the country. There's no more respect than I have than high school coaches. I think they're the best coaches in the country. I really do. Like, anybody can run offense once the ball is scored through the basket against you. We all have our pet plays. We all know what we like. Anybody can do that. Is that enough for you to win basketball games? I'm telling you, in my 25 years at Division I level, it's not enough. Because I don't have talent. Some of you guys might have the best talent in your league. You can run around in circles and flip the ball off the backboard. You're going to win 80% of your games. Like I used to work for Larry Farmer. I don't know if you guys know who Larry Farmer is. Larry played at UCLA. He lost one college game. He's the all-time winningest college player in NCAA history. I worked for him at Loyola Chicago. My office was a closet, literally a closet. We had some kids that were good, but he ran the UCLA high post offense every possession. And we used to argue like cats and dogs in a good way, because I'd give him my opinion and I'd put fact behind it. And he'd be like, well, that's not what Coach Wooden would do. I'm like, well, Coach, we don't have Kareem. We don't have, you know, whoever. We got, you know, guys like me. And it just opened my eyes. And like, listen, like you got to find ways to score. You really do. And again, I'm nuts. I think it's if you're really good at it, you can't lose. I always say this. It makes good teams great and great teams elite. It really does. Find me another avenue, unstructured, where there's so much opportunity to create advantage, to keep an advantage, and to have your lesser players get open looks. You can't. That's why I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah, I'll never forget that quote you said on the podcast. It makes good teams great and great teams really unable to be beat. I think it's the hardest offensive aspect to teach.
No question.
And definitely a weakness of mine. Takes patience, but it sounds like you do a lot of this through your 3-on-3 small-sided games.
Yeah, we do. Again, I work for a really impatient boss. So 3-on-3 small-sided games is about 2 minutes. And then it becomes like, oh, let's see what we can do. And, I'll be honest, this year we were god-awful offensively. We were terrible. I told that to him. Just watching us practice for the last 3 years, I think we missed a lot of opportunities. And he's like, he's one of my best friends, so I could talk to him like that. I mean, our families are close. And he's like, well, give me some examples. And I cut up some film from 2 years ago, last year, and this year. And he's like, God, I think we really, one thing this year offensively, which I asked him, I said, he wanted, and we were really good defensively this year. We started off top 30 in the country halfway through the year, top 10 in takeaways, forcing turnovers. But again, we changed our whole defensive philosophy, and our offense suffered. It really did. We had tons of injuries. Our leading scorer from 2 years ago or last year was out all year. We played 4 freshmen 20 minutes or more. And so some of these guys, they weren't there. Let's just put it this way. They weren't all Midwestern basketball guys. That's the reason why I love recruiting the Midwest. Like at the end of the day, these basketball IQ matters. And so we were awful offensively this year. And our numbers dictated it. And that's why I said, man, I'm going deep dive. I'm going to tell my boss exactly why what our issues were. We were too stagnant. We were too predicated on let's run a play. Again, we're as good as there is when the ball goes through the hoop against us. And every domino has to be in place to win a game like that. Every single possession. If one of those dominoes is out of line, you're going to lose. And when you're already stacked against it talent-wise, I think that's why I'm so passionate about the flow phase of it. Like, talent takes over, guys. If you got the best talent in the world, like I said, Larry Farmer, his teams he played for at UCLA could have run around in a circle, sucking their thumbs. They would have won every game. You really got to understand how to teach it. And Heath, like you said, man, I'm not a head coach. I haven't had the opportunity yet. Hopefully I will one day, but the patience that you have to have, it's tough. It's tough on you guys. But I will tell you this. If you're patient, the reward will outweigh the patience. But again, it's not going to happen overnight. Like you're going to be pissed off leaving practice every day because the ball's going to be thrown all over the gym. You're going to have offensive fouls. Your spacing is going to suck. But again, I just think if you're playing in that realm over 50%, more in the 60s, well, it deserves to be worked that much in practice. Unless you're a Princeton team. And then again, like I said, Princeton could beat anybody in the country. But look where most of the Princeton teams finish in their league.
Coach, this has been great. You guys have any other questions?
Not to keep drawing this out, but I'd love to hear about your shot selection average and assist opportunities.
Awesome job, Jer. So again, I wish I had one. I don't know if I do. I got my backpack downstairs. Unprepared. Jesus, am I unprepared. We do, myself and our first graduate assistant at BC, who was a really smart kid, who was really into analytics. We kind of sat down and figured out what's important to winning. Everything, you name a stat, an analytical category. This kid was on it. He's so good. He's now the video coordinator for the New Orleans Pelicans. That's how smart and good he is. But we have probably 30 different categories that we look at: paint touches, all this other stuff. We break down all our ball screen offense and defensive coverage. how they scored. But the two things that I always look for, the first thing I look at when we get an analytical report back is two things: shot selection average and assist opportunities, AOs and SSAs, I call them. And so AOs, assist opportunities, are exactly what they are. And meaning, if I throw the ball to you, Jared, you threw it to Nate, and Nate missed the shot, right? You would get an assist opportunity. It's not your fault that Nate can't make shots, right? And so we tally up how many assist opportunities and what is that percentage of assists, the conversion rate of that. And so it's a no-brainer stat. I don't know why most people don't look at it. What it does do for me, it gives me an idea. I know now in our categories, if I have X amount of AOs, I know if we're going to win or lose. And I can kind of give you an identification of who we're playing, and I can identify if we have a chance to win or not. So this is a no-brain concept. But if my point guard at Boston College and my four-man at Boston College this year didn't have double-digit assist opportunities, AOs, so 10 or more, we wouldn't win. And that's obvious, right? Like, but then if we had 40 as a team and we were anywhere close to 48% conversion rate, we always won. And so what it does do is, and some you're playing Syracuse, you're not going to have as many assist opportunities. So if that was in the 34s, if we had 34 assist opportunities, we probably had a good chance to win, or we won. And so it just gives you a quick indication on, it's very important to me how we play, how we share the ball. Again, some of you guys might not have that privilege because, your sixth, fifth, and fourth guys might be god awful. You don't even want them to touch the ball. Well, at the end of the day, like we're recruiting these kids. We better have some trust in them, and you better be able to throw it to them and then make the right play. Not only make it or make the play for the others. And so AOs is the first thing I look at. And then shot selection average, SSA, like I said before, every shot taken at Boston College, even the first months of practice, we stat it. We analyze it. We give it a numeric value. And two reasons why we do it. The first one, and the most important, every kid in the country, every level in the country is very sheepish or very they hate talking about that shot. Coach don't think I can make that shot. Coach said, we've all said, Coach, man, that's a bad shot. Like, and then what does the kid do? Man, fuck coach, right? So what we do is I can take a kid and bring him in my office and say, Derek Thornton, he was our starting point last year. Man, your SSA was at a 2.4. We can't beat anybody with 2. What it does, it takes the personal out of the shot. Now it's a number to him. And then and I'll give you the breakdown. So a 4, we're 0 to 4. A 4 is a wide open shot. Here's where coach and I differ. I give a shit what his last name says on his jersey. If you're taking wide open shots, I'll take 4s all day. And so a 3 is a late contested shot. And this is subjective. Myself and our new video coordinator kind of got it down to science now. So a late contested, gap contested shot, we're like, oh, damn, that's a really good shot. A 2 is a contested shot. Jerome Robinson, who was a lottery pick for us, his final shot selection average was like a 2.7, 2.8, which is pretty good, but he shot like 65% on his 2s. He was a tough 2 maker. And that's why he's the 13th pick in the draft. Where some guys are taking 2s and they're at the 20s, it's exactly how you could say, hey, man, that was a tough contested shot. Look at what you're shooting here at the 2s, but look at what your 3 percentage is. See how I'm trying to take the personal out of it? Now it's numerical. Now it's numbers. And it's you don't have to be, a mathematician where kids, they understand, okay, I shoot more 3s and 4s, I score more points. I look better. And you could do it, we do a lot of it videoly. where I'll show, hey man, look, you look like a dude who doesn't even know how to play. Look at this one. You trying to be in the NBA? The good thing with us, we mess with our kids because we're in Boston. We won't get less than 10 NBA scouts, GMs, pro player guys at every one of our games because everybody comes to Boston because they know they can get out. And so I'm like, yo, man, you remember last game? You remember? And I bring my laptop down to the court. Remember those guys that were sitting right there? This is what they saw. What do you think they walked away with? Man, it doesn't even look like I know how to play. Like, kids get real with you as long as you have a good relationship with it. And so ones are, to me, ones and zeros, there's no difference other than shot clock. And do you guys even play with a shot clock now? No, right? So you guys can make a determination on that. So if it's under 11 and it's an awful ass shot and it's contested, I'll give you a 1. If it's above 11 and it's an awful ass shot and you can't make it, I'll give you a 0. So I kind of give you a leeway there. But to me, those two things don't change. And so you can kind of get the hand of it is like, okay, let's think of where we need to be as a team. So each kid, after every game, we put it on a monitor, TV screen. They'll see it's the power of, of group learning. They'll see each other's SSAs and be like, man, look at Winston Tabs, man. Tabs, you got a 2.1 SSA, man. No wonder why you can't make any Julian Rishwain was one of our freshman shooters. He was always above a 3.0, 3.3, 3.5, 3. Whatever. Well, there's a reason why he gets 12 easy points. And so they start messing with each other about SSAs and stuff like that. So those are the two things, guys. Again, analytics is off the charts and so in depth and so detailed. And I think there's some importance to it. But those two things tell you exactly how your team is playing.
So where the shot is taken from is irrelevant.
I don't care. Yeah, I don't care. I mean, obviously, I want to take wide open shots, either at the rim or wide open threes. I'm no fool. I know what the analytics say. I want to get to the free throw line like everybody else. But again, I think we worry about sometimes a little bit too much. Like, just give me an open shot. Give me a 4. Yeah. If it's at 10 feet, I get it. Maybe it's not the best shot in the world, but I know it's wide open. It's a 4. Yeah. Give me 4s. And like I said, what it does do is it kind of takes the personal out of the shot, and it puts more of a, okay, I could talk about your whole SSA rather than, hey man, that was an awful ass shot. What were you thinking? Type thing. So, and it's really helped us. And again, our guys have bought into it. We've been doing it now for 4 years, and then those two things, and those two things are hand in hand in my eyes. Those things, they just help each other out. The more AOs you get, the better your SSA is going to be. I mean, that's just how it's going to be. And so we will have an SSA for each kid, and then we'll have a team SSA. And if we're in the 2 4s, 2 5s as a team, shit, we got no chance to win. The closer you get to 3 on those things, the better. I mean, come on, man. What would you rather have, a C in class or a B in class? Well, you got to work for B's. You got to work for A's. C's come easy. But if you're like me and your mom told you at a young age, she said, a young Billy Wu, she said, son, let me just leave you with this bit of advice. And again, she was an educator. She was a teacher. C's get degrees. So she left me with that. And that's exactly how I went through my whole college career. A lot of C's, guys. But again, if we would have been in basketball class, I think I would have got A's.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Coach. Really appreciate you taking the time with us this morning, and I know we can really geek out on this offensive stuff for sure. So you guys have any final questions?
I will leave with you this, and I know, again, it's another thing that maybe we could do at a later date because I don't have any video with me on skill development. I take the same approach as we talked about layers and drills that I do in skill development. So I'll very rarely, I should say, I'll just use a post up. I will very rarely have a kid come across the block. Well, in a post, I would never come across the block and shoot. Let's just use a jump hook, and then the next guy come, and the next guy come. Like, there would be layers of things they would have to do previous shooting a jump hook, per se. So, like, I challenge you guys to do the same thing in terms of when you're working with your individuals or teams or assistant coaches, bigs and guards. Like, try to be as creative and as layered as possible to make that game like, you know, and it doesn't have to be on with defense. Like, I found that, you know, doing multiple skills, multiple dimensions into shooting is 10 times more important than just shooting. Now, there's days where you need to just shoot, but, you know, the more layered you can be, the more multi-dimensional you can be, you accomplish so much more, and it's so much more game-like. We could talk about that, you know, later date, you guys down the line. I know, Heath, you got a pretty schedule, pretty packed out, but, you know, that's the one thing I will tell you, because that, you know, skill development and flow basketball is what I live. And when you're not as talented, you better figure out how to get these guys better. And it's just more than, okay, let's just shoot top of the key threes. Well, you better handle and pass and cut before you beat that top of the key three. So that's one big thing that I'm huge on in development, is just being layered and being multi-dimensional, and not just lunch line shooting. That makes sense. Probably not, but.
Lunch line shooting. I like that. Never heard that before. Well, Coach, we won't take any more of your time, but really appreciate you spending a couple hours with us this morning. Definitely some things that we'll be able to digest and implement with our own program. So. Yeah,
and if anybody, I'm gonna put this on the chat before we leave out. I think, Heath, you could share it with. It's my cell phone. So if anybody wants just that footage we watched, or wants to communicate with anything, I know Heath, and I think maybe Jerry, you might have my number, but if everybody else wants to contact me for anything or wants that video, it's a lot easier for me to send it. Let me know.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it, Coach. Look forward to staying connected with you.
All right, guys, man, be safe. Hopefully everybody stay happy, healthy, and safe. And basketball hopefully is right around the corner for all of us.
Take care.
Take care, guys.
Coach.